that it is more conducive to open contact now, and that will actually happen. And we will start being introduced to extraterrestrials, and disclosure will really start unfolding about the existence of extraterrestrials and UFOs. I think within the next passion and excitement, creativity, love, curiosity, these are all the physical translations of communications from our soul, our higher mind, to our physical mind. In other words, the soul communicates in the form of energy. It communicates in light, in frequencies of energy. Our physical minds and physical bodies translate that message as the sensation we call passion, excitement, creativity, love. And one of the things we're going to get as a gift from the ETs when open contact occurs is holographic recordings of
Daryl Anka, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Hi. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here. I appreciate it. And right now, my passion is the creation of escape room adventures. I don't know how many of your listeners know what escape rooms are, but they're basically a form of entertainment where you create an environment that simulates a certain reality. Like you could be in ancient Egypt, you could be on the moon in the future, you could be on a pirate ship, whatever the adventure is. The rooms are designed to simulate that environment. And you go in with a group of friends and family, and you look for clues and you try to solve puzzles and get through the adventure within a certain amount of time, like an hour. So it's good for team building, it's good for communication, it's great for problem solving and bringing those skills and different perspectives to your daily life as well. So very excited about the escape room we have that's been open for about just over a year. And we're now opening our second adventure October 2nd. So we're going to continue to make more and more adventures. So very excited about doing that.
Beautiful. So let me ask you, now that you opened up with the escape rooms, are we in some sort of escape room in this physical reality? And if so, what is the adventure that we're on right now as a collective?
Well, it's a simulation, but it's our simulation. It's not coming from anywhere else. We're the ones that are co-creating it by consensus, by agreement. The adventure is up to each and every one of us in terms of what our soul path is about, what we wanted to learn when we decided to experience an incarnation. So each person has their own adventure. Of course, we're sharing things with other people as well. And by agreement, we work all that out before we incarnate to a great degree, although we still have free will in terms of how we approach it. But each of us is on our own adventure, on our own path. So yeah, we have clues to find, we have puzzles to solve, challenges to transform. That's what helps us grow as a spirit.
And Daryl, for the past 40 years, you've been channeling an entity called Bashar, an ET hybrid. And I was doing some research about what the meaning of Bashar was in Arabic, and you said that your lineage is half Arabic. Right. And it's the bringer of good news to human beings. And so you've been doing this work, a plethora of good news, some neutral news, some maybe not so good news, but I would love to ask you, because one of the main laws that Bashar is teaching is to act on your highest passion. And you've said before that when you act on your highest passion, there's an increase in positive synchronicities in your life.
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit more personal with you, I'd love to ask, what's the latest, most positive synchronicities that have been going on in your life?
Well, again, a lot of it has to do with connections that are made, things that happen in certain timing when they need to happen. It's more about understanding that everything is an orchestration. And when you're more conscious of that, you get to experience things as an orchestration, understanding there are no accidents. So people coming into your lives, people connecting with you, things that you find out when you need to find out. I mean, one of the biggest synchronicities I always have that is partly guided probably by my spirit guides is anytime I need a certain kind of information to progress in the things that I'm passionate about, I will always get a hit to go to the bookstore. And when I get that hit, I will always find the next thing I need to read. It has just come out. It's, never been there before. So I have a great synchronicity that happens all the time with finding books and the information that I need to be able to progress to the next step in the things that interest me, in the things that I'm excited and passionate about. And that works in every level of my life. It's worked in when I've made films. It's worked with the escape room. It's worked in everything I've ever done, ever since I've applied Bashar's principles to my own life. And I get the feedback from other people too, as to when they apply the formula that Bashar shares with everyone, the instruction manual for how things work. They come back to me quite often and say, hey, when I finally applied this precisely as he suggested, everything changed, everything is better, everything is more positive, and synchronicity is really increasing in my life in a positive way. So everything is an orchestration. Synchronicity is space-time's linear way of showing us that everything is connected. And when we raise our vibration and look from a different perspective, then we get to experience that in a more aware way, in a more conscious way.
I get that with books as well, but mostly I get it with podcast guests. Like, for example, I was seeing 10 everywhere, like a week before you reached out again and you said, hey, I could do on the 10th at 10. And I was like, okay, there it is. Right. That was why I was seeing 10 everywhere.
And right now here, it is actually 10:10 a.m.
No.
And 10:10 is my birth number. I was born at 10:10 p.m.
Oh,
so there's
something going on there. And Bashar, as you said, he's a first contact specialist, meaning that he helps civilizations prepare for that first contact with intergalactic species. Right now, they're helping us avoid the path of destruction that maybe his civilization in another parallel reality went through initially.
No, not his civilization, a different civilization.
Yeah. And he's giving us some information to prevent that from happening. What do you think are the key things that we need to know in order to not go down that path of destruction and into more of like a golden age or new earth that we've been calling?
Yeah, obviously we need to let go of fear. We need to let go of negative belief systems. We need to stop having so much divisiveness. We need to really start looking at what we have in common. We really need to understand that there is no such thing as lack. We need to start opening up to different ways of doing things that are more creative, constructive, positive. But following his formula that he shares with all of us is one of the primary ways that we can achieve that. Because when we follow our passion and the other steps in the formula, it raises our frequency. And when we raise our vibrational frequency, we make ourselves a better receiver, a better antenna, so to speak, for receiving higher frequency information from our spirit guides, from ETs, from extra dimensionals, from our angelic team, from all of our soul family that is helping guide us in this life. So it's about being our true selves, staying in our primary frequency, our core essential signature vibration, so to speak, so that we can be guided more easily, so that we can receive the assistance that is available to us from our soul family, from our spirit guides, etc. So it's opening up in our awareness, it's paying attention to those things, and it's following certain steps that allow us to demonstrate that we are committed to taking the actions that keep us in alignment with our higher minds, with our soul, and keep us in a positive frame of reference for our life path.
Is there anywhere where our soul frequency resides?
It resides in us. Everything is here. Everything is here and now. We are souls. We're not humans who have a soul. We are souls that have a physical body. So the physical body is within the soul. So the soul is right here, but it's focused down. A part of it is focused down into what we call this physical experience. But all of that is happening within the soul. So it's a matter of focus. It's a matter of perspective. When the soul can relax and expand itself, when the physical mind can let go of the focus of physical reality a little bit more, then we can experience other things like psychic functioning, more precognitive awareness. We can start experiencing things like astral projection, near-death experiences, so on and so forth. So it's just different stages of the physical mind focus softening itself and expanding back out to, let's say, the diameter of the energy sphere that is the soul itself, that each of us is.
I wanted to ask you, because Bashar says that we go in 40-year cycles here on Earth, and that since you've been doing this work for 40 years, right, it's the end of a cycle, the beginning of a new. And right, you've probably heard a lot of similar things that Bashar has saying over the years, but I want to just ask you, what are you most in awe in or fascinated about what he's coming through in this new cycle now? I know he's talking about the interstellar alliance and preparing us for contact. Well, what is fascinating you the most about that?
That's the most fascinating thing, is that I think we are really on the threshold within the next few years of being introduced to some of the first species that are members of a galactic society. So I think we are right on the cusp of that. I think all of the 40 years that he's been delivering this information has been preparation for that, to get us used to the idea that we're not alone, to get us into the understanding that we need to raise our vibration to be more vibrationally compatible with the species of extraterrestrials that are engaging with us on this planet, that have our best interest at heart and are helping us up the evolutionary ladder, so to speak. So I think that's one of the most exciting things I can imagine happening, is to suddenly realize that we're being introduced to some beings from other civilizations that can actually help humanity expand and accelerate in fantastic and almost unimaginable ways over the next few decades.
And even looking farther out, Bashar has said that ultimately there will be hybrid children living on the earth and amongst us. Yeah. Who are these hybrid children?
Well, the hybrid children are the result of what is typically referred to as the hybrid program or agenda. And people that are familiar with things like alien abduction and the Greys, it's a long story, it's a big story. But the idea generally is that on a spiritual level, we've made an agreement to assist with the evolution of humanity. And part of the process of that evolution is the uplifting and genetic alteration of humanity to be more capable of connecting into spirit, of exhibiting certain kinds of abilities like telepathy and psychic functioning and so on and so forth. And it's the hybrids that have been created from humans' genetic material between the Greys and Earth humans that are going to be able to sort of be our guides and our mentors coming to Earth to help us progress in certain ways, sociologically, technologically, and what have you, to be able to proceed toward a future that is much more beneficial for all humanity, and to help us understand how to be of service to humanity in that way. So they will come to live among us in the near future in order to help us see things from a different perspective, a bigger perspective, a broader perspective, and to allow us to suddenly start to understand that we are part, and can become even more so, a part of a much bigger galactic family.
And as the Earth's frequency is also accelerating, and we can see that even through like the Schumann resonance, are the children that are being born on the planet right now also more attuned to be able to be more in that spirit state and make connection with intergalactic communication?
Yeah, I believe so. I think Bashar has actually said that the children that have been being born now for the last couple of decades are not just a new generation. They're, technically speaking, genetically speaking, a new species of human. They are an uplifted species of human that has more capability of making those energetic and spiritual connections. They don't forget as much of who they are coming into physical materiality. They remain strongly connected to spirit, and they're guided more easily that way. So yeah, I think that a lot of the children being born today will be the ones who will sort of lead the way to this future. I mean, remember the children that have been being born, ever since late 60s. There's never been a time for them when we haven't been in outer space. So to them, the idea of humanity being in space is a very natural kind of everyday thing. And that's a very different mindset than the mindset that existed before that time. So even since the late 60s, people that have been being born since then are more open to the idea that, yeah, there can be other beings that live on other planets in outer space. Of course, science fiction sort of helped prepare us for that even before that, but actually being able to be in space, as many humans now have been, is something very different. And, the whole idea of seeing UFOs and UAPs is again increasing the idea that there are phenomena going on that have been unexplainable, that really do represent another level, another paradigm shift of what our reality can be and what we can experience in our reality. I certainly know that, the two very close broad daylight UFO sightings I had many years ago completely shifted my life because, I'd always heard about, oh, sure, there are UFOs. But when you physically see something like that at close range in broad daylight with witnesses with you, it changes everything. You start realizing the world you have been told exists is something different than what you were told exists. There is something else going on. There's another level to it. So that really pulls your consciousness in a very different direction. And of course, for me, this is where I wound up, is becoming a channel and bringing through this information for the last 40 years. So it's going to have a great impact on humanity to suddenly be literally physically introduced in the upcoming years to extraterrestrials. It'll be a very strong shift in our mindset about what's possible.
Mm-hmm. And I know you love storytelling, and I'm almost curious to ask you, where do you feel that the stories of movies like Star Trek, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars were really coming to us from?
Well, I'm not going to, in any way, shape, or form, take away from the creative abilities of the people that actually wrote those stories, because we're participating in that as well, because we certainly all have the ability to tap into creative source and bring through ideas and information in very creative ways. Now, that being said, I understand certainly there are some people that have a stronger connection with spirit guides. They're actually tapping into other parallel realities and other things going on in the universe that they bring down in a creative way that may not necessarily be literally what's going on, but can be a very close representation of things that do exist in other civilizations. So I think it's a kind of combination of things where you have to have the energy to be inspired to connect into realities that are beyond the earth, but also be open to receiving information. I think a very good example of that is in Star Trek, where there is the thing called the Prime Directive, where ETs, or humanity sort of have a hands-off policy for civilizations that haven't developed warp drive yet, that are not really understanding that there may be extraterrestrials. And I think that that is somebody that tapped into an actual reality, because that's exactly what Bashar said the Interstellar Alliance does, is they have this sort of Prime Directive hands-off policy where they can interact in certain ways, but they can't just land everywhere and suddenly disrupt the entire society. They have to allow a society to evolve to a certain point on their own, so they get to a point where they're more willing to open up to the idea that it may be possible to meet ETs and life existing on other planets and so on and so forth. So there definitely are principles that people are picking up on and translating into our books and our movies that help also do prepare us for upcoming contact. And I think some of that is definitely information from guides and other sources. And some of it is the life path that that person chose to be of assistance with the idea of expanding and serving humanity, and they have come down to do it in an artistic and creative way. So I think it's a combination of the two.
Yeah. And I found it fascinating that Bashar was saying that this process of open contact was becoming almost imminent at this point, or maybe inevitable. And I feel like there's certain major events that are upcoming for us in the next few years. You know, you've even said that maybe 2026, 2027, but there's this upcoming US presidential election. Do you feel like that has any sort of influence as to how accelerated or decelerated this path of open contact will be?
Yes, I do. I actually think, along with a couple of other psychic mediums who've talked about this, that we have accelerated about 8 years forward all of a sudden, and that it is more conducive to open contact now, and that will actually happen. And we will start being introduced to extraterrestrials, and disclosure will really start unfolding about the existence of extraterrestrials and UFOs, I think within the next 5 years. And I think that seems very quick to most people. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is a lot of this has been being set up and being prepared behind the scenes for quite a while. So the idea that in the next 5 years, we might actually be openly introduced by different factions of government to the idea that extraterrestrials exist is something that has been going on for quite some time in the setup phase, and therefore over the next 5 years is not necessarily such a surprise that we have finally reached the point where this becomes inevitable and actually becomes something that can happen in the relatively near future.
And Daryl, I've never shared this before on the podcast, and it's kind of strange that I'm wearing a blue shirt because I don't know about you, but I've been having some wild dreams lately. And one of those dreams was I was on Earth and I'm here as a human, I'm as me, and two large ships came, landed, and beings with blue colored skin walked out of the spaceships and started interacting with us. So I'm curious to know, is this mass contact beginning in dream time as well for people?
Yes, I think that's one of the ways that people are prepared for this, is to get used to having those experiences in the dream time, because dream time a lot of times are actually representative of interactions and encounters we have had out of the body in astral form that set up the blueprint for something to manifest in physical terms. So yeah, I think that's one of the methods of open contact, is not only the dispensation of information through channels and other sources, mediums, and psychics, but also interactions that take place in slightly altered realities and also in the astral level, which we interpret as dreams.
So what do you feel will it take for us to go from Homo sapiens to Homo galacticus?
Well, a lot of people are talking about the idea, psychics and mediums, that we're now in the beginning stages or the middle of essentially an evolutionary reset of humanity from 2020 to 2050. So I think that over that 3-decade period of time, there are going to be massive changes in our society on Earth that will, again, in conjunction with the idea of extraterrestrial contact, propel humanity forward in an incredible way that will really create whole new paradigm shift for people on Earth who choose to follow that path, who choose to vibrate in alignment with that reality. There may be those that don't. And the idea is, of course, that there are any number, from Bashar saying, there are any number of parallel reality versions of Earth that already coexist, that exist at the same time. So whatever vibrational frequency you are is where you will navigate and shift yourself through those different parallel versions of Earth that are more representative of the change you made within yourself, frequency-wise. People that are more positively oriented to the idea of contact will shift themselves to versions of Earth where that contact will occur. But we never change the actual planet we're on. We simply shift to other versions of Earth many, many times a second. People that are still going to be focused on the idea of negativity and fear-based ideas are going to shift to versions of Earth that are going to reflect that. And on those versions, contact may not occur. So we're in a time of choosing what we prefer. We're in a time where the realities are starting to really literally physically split apart into different parallel versions. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're starting to see early signs of that and early symptoms where you have people saying, no, this is what happened. No, 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 this is what happened. And it's not necessarily a matter of just different ideologies or different perspectives wishing that something different had happened. People saying completely opposite things sometimes honestly, truly believe that's what happened. And it may be true in the reality that they're shifting to, as opposed to the other reality, which may be true for those people that are shifting in that direction. Eventually, those realities may be so far apart that one will never experience the other in the years to come. But right now, they overlap enough that we can still see all the choices. We're getting all of the choices out on the table. That's why things are a little bit chaotic right now and will be for a little while, because we have to get everything out on the table so we can decide for each of ourselves individually and in certain groups, what kind of an Earth do we want to experience? Which direction do we want to go in? So right now we have the ability to still see each other, to still see opposing points of view. But I think in time, as we shift to the different parallel realities and versions of Earth, we will only see the version that is at least somewhat similar to what it is we're choosing today. So I think that's what Bashar has explained is actually going on, is now is the time of choosing, and we are creating a split into different parallel realities.
What do you feel is the most difficult choice that people are having to make right now?
I think they have to understand how things work so that they know that they are here by choice. They are on a path that allows their soul to grow. And I know that based on a lot of the training and ideas and fear-based beliefs that we've been holding on to for so long, it can be very challenging for people to let go of those things. But as someone who, even before I knew about Bashar, always chose my passion, I've always only really gone into things that I was passionate about. You know, I've worked in graphic arts and I worked in the film industry. I'm now doing escape rooms. I've never really done anything I wasn't excited to do. And the one thing, the one lesson, the main lesson I've learned through all of that for my entire lifetime of doing that is it always has supported me. So the idea of getting over the fear that following your passion won't support you is not a realistic assessment. If you actually are more in alignment with who you are, which is what following your passion is all about, you are always supported. I'm not saying there are challenges through that, but the challenges are there to help you grow, to help you become more accomplished as a soul. So it's not that you won't face challenges, but if you approach them with curiosity instead of fear and understand, okay, how can this challenge serve me? How can it help me serve others? Then you will always find that the support will be there. You always have the support of your spirit guides, your soul team, your soul family, angelic realm beings. They're always helping you. You just have to be open to receiving it. And there are many techniques and ways to be more open to do that. But it's always worked. It's always worked. It's never not worked. So the one thing I would want to get across to people is when you truly allow yourself to let go of the fear-based beliefs, the negative beliefs, and you're willing to really act on your passion, and it's up to you as to how to do that and when to do that, at what pace to do that. It's up to you. But when you do it, when you finally do it, you will always be supported. It's always supported me. It's never failed.
Is Bashar sometimes, does he act as some sort of like spiritual support in that perspective, or is he purely a messenger?
No, his energy certainly has changed my energy, because when I'm channeling him, I get to feel what they feel like. And the feeling, their energy is profoundly different from a typical human's energy, in the sense that they don't have a shadow of a doubt about anything. not a moment's hesitation to understand that what they're talking about isn't just a philosophy, it's how they actually see the structure of existence. And they're just describing what they see. And it's a profoundly different state of knowingness and certainty and conviction than the way most humans operate on Earth. And that has rubbed off on me quite strongly over the years. So allowing me to become more of, let's say, my version of him in our reality. And that's why I can now sort of talk about his principles very deeply, because I not only just understand them, I've applied them and I've seen the effect of them working in my life. I am constantly getting people coming back to me and saying, yeah, when I finally applied these principles and followed Bashar's formula, everything profoundly changed in positive ways. So when I constantly get that feedback that the information works, then I understand that that's the point. It's not about whether people believe that Bashar is real. I have no way of proving that he's real. This could be coming from another aspect of my own consciousness when I'm in an altered state, and that's fine. What's real is the information. The information is the proof itself that the information works when you apply it properly. So it doesn't matter whether it's coming from my higher mind, whether it's coming from an extraterrestrial, whether it's coming from a spirit guide, whether it's coming from a member of my soul family. It doesn't matter what the source is, because ultimately it all comes from source. So it's the information itself that, when applied, definitely makes a difference, definitely makes changes in a positive direction to allow you to have a life that is more creative, more joyful, more loving, more positive. And to me, that's the ultimate litmus test: is, does the information make a difference in a positive way in your life? That's the most important question.
Yeah, I was watching the movie that you directed and wrote, First Contact, and there's a moment where Bashar is explaining a little bit of what life is like on their planet, Essassani. And one of the biggest differences I found between how they're living their life than how we're living our life on Earth is that they maintained their planet as natural as possible, and they didn't build upon it. Right. But where they live is on their ships. Right. So do you think that is a possible potential for us to stop building on the natural world and move outside into ships as well?
I think ultimately, yes, although it doesn't mean we have to completely stop building. It just means we have to do things that are a little bit more aligned with nature itself. Now, we may get to the point where we leave the planet almost completely natural. I don't know if that's completely in our future or partially in our future, but we can certainly move in that direction. And especially once we actually have the ability to construct spaceships like they do, and visit other planets, then, there may be more of an opportunity to live on the ships when you want to be in a city environment, and live on the planet when you want to just be in a holistically natural environment. Certainly we can bring the Earth back toward a more natural place where it is an environment that we can enjoy as a natural environment, rather than completely, covering it in concrete and steel. So yeah, we can certainly move in that direction. I don't know if we'll do it to the degree the Sassani people have done it, but we can certainly move in that direction.
Yeah. How did the Greys lose their ability to feel emotions?
This was by choice, as I understand it, because the idea was that once they destroyed their version of Earth, so to speak, in a parallel reality as they used to be human, and realized that they had to find a viable source of human DNA in order to perpetuate their civilization, because they lost the ability to reproduce because of the environmental catastrophes and toxins that were in their particular version of Earth. They had to literally mutate themselves into what we now understand as the Greys. And by doing so, and having to come into our reality and other realities to be able to get human DNA to create hybrids to perpetuate their species, it was such a dauntingly large program and task that they felt the only way that it would be achievable was to actually let go of their ability to experience emotions, to function more efficiently like a hive mentality, and to basically allow other beings, such as the mantis beings people have reported seeing in abduction experiences, to be the overseers of the program so that it would be as efficient as it could possibly be, so that emotion didn't get in the way, so that they could achieve what they needed to achieve in a amount of time that was feasible, and in a sense then giving up emotion in order to regain their emotionality, but through the hybrids that they were creating.
That's so interesting, because I almost see that that's in a way what we do, even in like a work environment where we have to separate sometimes our emotions, separate ourselves from feeling, especially men. And I think we're now as a collective beginning to really understand what the higher purpose of emotions are. What is Bashar's insight to that, since their civilization kind of got that ability taken away from them?
Well, emotions,
by choice.
Yeah. Emotions are used to reinforce what you believe to be true, because the physical reality isn't a real place. It's a projection of consciousness. It's a simulation. So you have to be able to feel that it's real. You have to be able to think that it's real. You have to behave as if it's real. So belief systems use emotions, thoughts, and behaviors to reinforce the idea that what you believe to be true is actually a solid fact. Without the emotional component, without the thought patterns, without the behaviors, we wouldn't really have a solid experience of physical reality. It would be as it really is. It would be like a transparent projection that we wouldn't necessarily have any commitment to. We wouldn't have any stake in. So the emotions, the thought patterns, the behaviors create the stakes of forcing us to focus on physical reality as a real solid place, as a real solid experience, so that our souls can take advantage of that projection of consciousness in a way that allows us to grow, to allows us to experience process and change and creation. Other than that, it wouldn't be real. It would just be a timeless void, a timeless experience where there's no change, no growth, and we wouldn't be able to expand, and the universe wouldn't be able to expand. Creation wouldn't be able to expand in that way, metaphorically speaking. So it's about the changes in our perspective, in our relationship, and in our experience of the structure of existence that causes creation to expand. The structure of existence never changes. It is what it is. It's a very basic foundational structure. But our relationship to it constantly changes. And that's what physical reality as an experience allows us to do.
Is excitement a emotion that is shared by other species around the world? Because I know how, honed in Bashar is on acting on your passions and your highest excitement. So I'm really curious to know where that teaching is really coming from and why excitement is so important to us.
Passion and excitement, creativity, love, curiosity, these are all the physical translations of communications from our soul, our higher mind, to our physical mind. In other words, the soul communicates in the form of energy. It communicates in light, in frequencies of energy. Our physical minds and physical bodies translate that message as the sensation we call passion, excitement, creativity, love. So when we're willing to act on it, when something comes to us that contains that passion, makes us excited, that's our higher mind saying, look, this is the next step to take on your path. That's why it comes to you with this energy. This is actually representative of a message coming from your soul saying, this is who you are. Act on it. When we are willing to take that action, that's the response to the soul that says, I heard you. Because the language of physical reality isn't words. It's not thoughts. It's actions. It's physical actions that demonstrate the commitment to trust the guidance that's coming from our higher mind and leading us on our soul's path in a positive, constructive, creative way. So when we do take those actions on the things that contain the most passion, the most excitement, when we lead with our curiosity to find out how we can learn something, how it can be a benefit to us and a benefit in allowing us to serve humanity by being living examples of transforming challenges. Then we are responding to the soul in a way that allows the soul to know it can send us more opportunities to act on our passion. If we're not willing to act on what the soul has already sent us, it's not going to send us more opportunities to do so, because that would be pointless until we're willing to act on what it's already sent. So this is the process of actually creating a dialogue with your soul from the physical mind to the higher mind. The higher mind sends you the passion, the thing that excites you. You're willing to act on it, which responds to the higher mind saying, I'm committed to following your guidance. And then the higher mind can send you more opportunities to act on your passion. And then you act on them. And that's the response to the higher mind that says, I'm ready for more. And that just keeps the ball rolling, and it accelerates and expands. And before you know it, you're living a life of synchronicity, creativity, joy, and fulfillment.
Yeah. And I know when you acted on actually pursuing the path of doing the channeling and going to channeling courses, meeting your wife in the process, I imagine that there was also a whole lot of fear tied to what happens if I go all in on this. So what's the role of fear? There was no fear involved?
No, because remember that when I had the UFO sighting in 1973, I didn't start going into the channeling class as part of my research until 1983. I had 10 years to do research to understand what was happening to people with regard to their UFO experiences, what the idea of channeling was all about through things like the Seth material from Jane Roberts. So I had prepared myself to understand there was nothing to be afraid of in going forward in those things. Now, I didn't know what was going to happen. Certainly there were challenges and surprises, but there wasn't fear. There was only curiosity. Where is this leading? What's going to happen? But it wasn't a fear-based thing, because by then I already understood that channeling is an altered state we all are capable of doing, and that we actually all go into from time to time when we're doing something we love to do, when we're totally focused and absorbed in an activity and we don't pay attention to the passage of time. That's a channeling state. When you think you've been doing something for 15 minutes and you look up and it's been 2 hours, that's a channeling state. You have actually gone into gamma in the brain, which is between 40 and 100 cycles per second. The gamma state is the channeling state. We all do it. It's just a matter of what you do with it. So when you have an athlete that's in the zone, when you have an actor that is the part, becoming the character, when you have an artist that is creating these amazing works, music, art, whatever, that's being channeled. It doesn't mean it's not coming from the person, but it's coming through the channeling state that creates more associations, more synthesizing in a rapid way of information, more connections going on in the brain. And it's just creating a flow of creativity that is not impeded by any kind of negative or fear-based belief system. It allows you to operate more efficiently and bring things through more fully. So people can use the channeling state in a variety of ways, and people do all the time. Channeling is not a woo-woo thing. It's a natural altered state that almost all of us get into at one time or another in our lives. So that's the one reason I did the documentary, is to demystify the idea of what channeling is and take it out of the woo-woo idea and bring it into a practical, grounded understanding that it's simply a natural altered state our brain goes into when we're focused, when we're doing what we absolutely love to do. So that's why it's so important also to follow your passion, because it elevates your frequency. It puts you in that state. It allows you to process information and absorb information much more efficiently. And it allows you to express creativity in a much more holistic way, whatever you want to use it for.
Yeah. What does then Bashar say about our other brain, the heart?
He's saying that's more receiving the soul's message directly. So it's the idea that it's receiving that vibration directly. It's transmitting that vibration from the heart, from the higher mind to the heart, to the brain, But the brain, the physical mind, is filtering that with its belief systems. So when you clear out fear-based and negative belief systems, then your physical mind is more in alignment with your heart, which is receiving the direct vibration from your soul, from your higher mind. So the heart is kind of like acting as the drum beat, so to speak, of the vibration that is coming directly from your higher mind, so that when you clear yourself out of fear-based beliefs and negative beliefs, you can be more in sync with it. And that's where the idea of body, mind, spirit can be more coherent, more cohesive, more in alignment. And you can really start functioning as a more holistic human being with all of you working together, rather than just thinking that the physical mind has to be in control of everything, which it really is not designed to do. Your physical mind is designed to allow you to experience physical reality, but it's not necessarily designed to know what's going to happen. The higher mind is designed to tell you what's coming up. The physical mind is just designed to tell you what's happening now so that you can fully experience it. So when everything works together, heart, mind, spirit, body, then you're functioning on all cylinders and you can flow through life in a much more effortless, much more creative way. It does work. It's actually physics that we're talking about here. It's nothing far-fetched. It really does actually work.
Yeah. And is that state really the initial state that we were created to live? Or first did we have to go to what we're doing now, which is a little bit chaotic, not cohesive, not in coherence?
No, our natural state is spirit. We have to understand we never leave spirit. We're there right now. That's our home. That's our natural state. We are pretending that we've left. We're dreaming that we've left. That's what physical reality is. It's a part of our soul focused down in a way that gives us an experience that's happening within the soul, but the soul is still in spirit. The soul is becoming the higher mind that guides the physical mind. So our physical body, all our physical experience is actually happening within the soul. And we never leave the spirit reality. That's where we are. It is our holistic self where we know what we know. We're connected to source. We know exactly who we are. We create this forgetfulness so that we can kind of clean the slate, start from scratch, and have an experience that allows us to discover ourselves from a new point of view. And like I said before, that's how creation expands, is the experience of creating a discovery from a new point of view, a new relationship to all that is, a new experience, a new perspective of all that is. That's how creation expands. The structure never changes.
And speaking about new perspectives, what do you feel we can learn about the more, let's say, evolved aquatic beings like dolphins or whales? Have they even made ET contact already? What can we learn from them?
Yeah, I believe they have. Bashar's talked about the idea, there are other sentient species on the planet, especially dolphins and whales. They're very telepathically connected to many extraterrestrial beings, one of which primarily is the civilization that exists in the star system of Sirius, that are, as far as I understand it, amphibious themselves and very much relate to the idea of dolphins and whales in a certain way vibrationally. So dolphins and whales can certainly open us up to the idea of telepathic contact with other ET beings. And the idea of having another sentient species on the planet that lives in the water, like a dolphin, can be practice for us to learn how to communicate with other species that are not human. So we have a great opportunity by interacting with dolphins and whales to actually practice what it might be like to have open contact with alien species, because they are really more alien in a lot of ways than some of the ETs that are coming to us, because we might be genetically connected to some of these ETs, and that's why we're all humanoid. But dolphins and whales are truly not humanoid. So they're actually, in a way, they're not ETs, but they're more alien. Whereas some of the ETs are not necessarily that alien to us because they're more humanoid. Some of them, not all of them. Bashar has said there's a lot of extraterrestrials that are nothing like us. We'll eventually get introduced to those as well, But the first ones that will probably be introduced to us are the ones that are a little bit more like us, so that there's some familiarity there, so that we don't freak out as a civilization when we meet them. So we'll probably be introduced to those first, and then later down the line, get introduced to the ones that are nothing like us at all.
Yeah. And in the event that, let's say, first contact has occurred, you said that we will be receiving a record of all of the true human origins, human histories. Even though maybe that's a lot to get into right now, what do you think are some of the main things that we should know that have been misunderstandings from what we learned in school about our history?
Well, there's a lot of gaps in our history, especially our ancient histories, and especially things, like Atlantis and things like that. It's like, I think the one thing that we're going to get, not only the one thing, but one of the things we're going to get as a gift from the ETs when open contact occurs is holographic recordings of all of those things that go back.
Like the Akashic records?
Well, it's like that. It's like they've been observing us for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and they've recorded it all. So they're going to literally say, look, here, this is what Atlantis looked like. Here's a holographic recording of it. This is what other ancient civilizations that have been on your planet actually looked like. Here's a holographic recording. They may even have holographic recordings of dinosaurs. So, I mean, that would be an amazing gift to receive. And Bashar's not the only one that said that. Other psychic mediums have actually said that that's one of the gifts that aliens are going to be giving us, is a lot more of what's been going on this planet than our history has recorded. So there's a lot of gaps in our history that we know nothing about. They'll fill in all the gaps.
They're going to put Netflix out of business. I'm just going to be watching those holograms.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Spend hours on there. What are you watching tonight? Oh, I'm watching the Atlantis hologram, bro.
Right, man. I'm watching what really happened with the dinosaurs back then. Huh?
I don't know why I'm getting this sense that if this first contact is very close, I feel like if I were an alien species, I would probably try to make connection first with the humans on the planet, or the humanoids on the planet, that have the least amount of fear and preconceived ideas of what reality is. So that comes into the children. So maybe they will start first with the children. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think that's happening. I don't think it's a possibility. I think it's happening. So, and that's why you're getting things like channelings and psychic mediums picking up on these things. These people come in with the ability to have those connections happen. But yes, I think children are, again, as I said, much more receptive these days and much more open to receiving that kind of information, because in a sense, they are designed to. They have genetics that are more open to receiving higher frequency energies. They are a different species in a sense. So yeah, I don't think that's a possibility. I think it's actually happening, and I think it's been happening for quite some time.
Yeah. And is there any first contact, let's say, exercises that the adults can share with their children so that these children are better equipped to be able to have these
I'm sure that there are. I know that Bashar will probably be talking about things like that in the Sedona transmission that's coming up next weekend. So yeah, he's going to be specifically talking about different things that might be happening, different ways in which open contact might occur, different ways we can sensitize ourselves to the idea of open contact. So that's going to be coming up this weekend in Sedona on the 14th and the 15th.
Yeah. And that'll also be recorded so people can watch back.
Absolutely. Yeah. They can go to, they can certainly sign up at bashar.org, BASHAR.org. And Bashar will also be back in Sedona in January at the Channel Panel experience and event there. So that's the channelpanel.com. You can find out about that. But again, at bashar.org, people can find out about anything that Bashar has been talking about, that they can access the recordings of different experiences and transmissions that Bashar has already done as well.
Yeah. To begin wrapping up, I just wanted to clarify some of the some of the things that Bashar has said about the 5 laws, and one of them being is to remain in a positive state to be able to get those positive, results or mirrors of our reality. What, there's this aspect of, let's say, like false optimism, or, when someone doesn't want to see the reality for what it really is.
Well, you got to be honest.
What are your thoughts on that?
You got to be honest with yourself about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. Because absolutely. You can pretend that things are all right when deep down, that you're afraid of something, or that you're experiencing it or projecting it in a negative way. So you have to have honest self-examination. It comes back to the very ancient phrase, know thyself. So if without that honesty, you are not going to be able to have the discernment to know why you are choosing to do what you're doing. So you have to really, really examine yourself and know the difference between truly being in a positive state or just trying to gloss it over, cover it up, or avoid looking at something that you really might need to pay attention to in order to actually evolve and advance. There's nothing to be afraid of. Ultimately, you have to be willing to look deep within yourself and be transparent to yourself to be able to know why you believe what you believe, whether or not you need to hold on to that belief or let it go, so that you can move forward and be your true self. So it takes a lot of honest self-investigation and examination to do that. And it's okay to do that.
What is one belief that Bashar has helped you shift the most in your life?
Well, I think mostly the idea that things have to be a struggle, that you have to earn joy. That's simply something that's our birthright. And I'm not saying, again, you don't have challenges, but challenges help you grow. And if you approach a challenge with curiosity, then it'll be fun. It will be like solving a puzzle. It will give you a sense of accomplishment. It will enhance your knowledge, your experience, and your abilities. Serving humanity by being a living example of doing that, so others can see in you ways that they can do it too, is one of the greatest things you can do. So I think letting go of the idea that you have to suffer or struggle in order to earn fulfillment and joy in your life is something that's important to let go of. Now, I understand that soul sometimes will come into physical reality with what people might call a disease or a disability that they have to deal with and overcome. But a lot of time, it's a very advanced soul that has chosen that, because the advanced soul might know, look, if I come in with this particular disease or disability, it gives humanity a chance to find a cure. And that can be a way that a soul is being of service to humanity by taking that on themselves. So you can't always look at things from a negative point of view. You can't always assume that those particular conditions, as limiting as they may appear, are always being done for a negative reason. Sometimes it's being done by very advanced souls to help humanity learn to do things in a more positive way and to accomplish certain things that can be very beneficial for all of humanity. So it's how you look at things that determines how you experience them and how you begin to understand why certain things may happen the way that they do.
And those advanced souls are choosing then to master limitation.
Absolutely. And again, not even necessarily that they master it. Again, it may just be giving other humans an ability and an opportunity to learn to master it for themselves in a different way. It may increase our technology. It may increase our medical understanding. It may increase our sociological understanding of how to deal with people that are different. It may increase our ability to understand how to communicate with people that communicate differently. So many souls will choose things that seem like limitations, but are opportunities for the rest of humanity to overcome those limitations. Whether they overcome it or not isn't always the point. They may simply be willing to be an example for their entire lifetime to give humanity the time they need to learn to overcome those limitations so that no one has to experience that in the future. Souls are willing to do that because souls understand that physical reality is a temporary projection. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form do anything to curtail their ability to be an infinite, eternal being and to experience many, many other things beyond that life. So to a soul, that could be a very temporary thing that they're willing to do to aid and assist humanity on that level.
That is beautifully said, brother. And we end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, little questions at the end. You already mentioned where people can find the escape rooms, different movies. Where can they contact more of your work and get familiar with your world?
Well, again, they can go to bashar.org, BASHAR, to find out anything Bashar said. If they want to know what I'm doing, they can go to either darryllanka.com, DARRYLANKA, or for the escape room information, they can go to boggledescaperooms.com, BOGGLED, boggledescaperooms.com. They can find out everything that I'm doing on either of those sites and anything that Bashar has transmitted on bashar.org.
Beautiful. For the final trio, the first two are personalized to the guests, and the last one we ask at the end of every show. The first one is, what is one thing that humanity is most redefining about themselves, about reality, and about what is coming for the future?
That we are more than just these physical beings. We are large, eternal souls that choose to have the experiences we have for the purpose of expanding ourselves and expanding creation. We have to look beyond the physical reality to understand who we actually are in our essence.
And Bashar has also said miracles are a natural state of being. What is the miracle of being human at this time in humanity?
Well, it's a miracle and amazing that we can create something like physical reality. You know, one of the ways Bashar has said you can tell that physical reality isn't real is that it deteriorates. That which is real is eternal. So physical reality has to be maintained. It has to be kept up. It deteriorates, which from Bashar's point of view demonstrates that physical reality is nothing more than a projection of consciousness and a temporary one, because it has to constantly be maintained and kept up. That shows you that it's not real. So understanding that this is something that we are using as a tool, like a lesson in a school that helps us and helps others, I think is a more positive and constructive way to look at what physical reality is all about.
Yeah. And how do we know what's real?
Well, real is about what you experience to be real that helps you grow. It doesn't matter so much in what realm or dimension it happens. What's real is the experience itself that helps the soul understand more of who and what it is. That's what's real.
Beautiful.
Everything else is just a technique.
Yeah. The final question we ask at the end, we call it the time capsule question, and it requires us to travel out a little bit into the future, even though time is another illusion that is not real, but around 15 to 20 years down the line. And I chose out those time frames because I feel that that is a time when the younger generations of today will be stepping more into leadership positions around the world. And like any great leader in the world, they're going to need great mentors, great guidance, great teachings passed by people who have walked the path before. So you are given the opportunity to leave a time capsule behind for these leaders, where you could include anything that your mind can conceive of. It doesn't have to be anything physical inside of the time capsule. It could be an object, a frequency, a transmission, a teaching, whatever it is. But knowing that these teachers and these leaders will open the time capsule, and then whatever you leave behind, they will take to be the best leaders for the new earth, for the golden age that has been prophesized for many years. What would you leave behind inside of the time capsule?
Well, I think the knowledge that we are not alone, that we have always never been alone, that we always have guidance, that we are more than these physical beings, that we will awaken in that time frame to the idea not only of the existence of extraterrestrials, but be more capable of actually communing with spirits, with our soul family, with our angelic team. So I think that will become very normal. I think we'll start to experience in that time frame more children, especially experiencing telepathic communication with spirits, with ETs, with animals, with nature, with life itself. So I think we will learn in that time frame the very beginnings of what it really means to be nature itself. What is our true nature? I think that's what we will be experiencing within the next 20 years, being taught by ETs, being guided by spirits. What is our true nature? That's, I think, where we're heading to. That's, I think, what we will discover.
Very powerful stuff, Daryl. I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to act on my highest excitement, which is talking to people like you. And also for you, I don't know if you realize how much you are shifting the needle and inspiring younger people as well, especially, and people all around the world. So it's been my awe, my reverence to you, and I would love to continue our conversations.
It's my passion and my pleasure, and I'm very grateful that there are outlets like this that allow us to share information. It's really up to people to decide whether or not to take it. I share what I share because this is who I am. What you do with it is none of my business. It's up to you. But I guarantee that if you go in a positive direction, the world ahead is going to be something quite magical and miraculous. And I'm looking forward to that, as well as being in the present now with all of you. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. We all have a wonderful creative day. Thanks.